Yes, Comrade Deng actually did say those immortal words, even before the Sino-British Joint Declaration was signed in 1984. What he meant, of course, was that nothing in Hong Kong would change after the handover, and here we are, just over a year after reunification, and yes, the horses are still running, but are the people still dancing? That's a question that's under major debate by most people in Hong Kong's entertainment business. For this and the next 3 weeks, we'll not only take a look at the dancing, but also live music and karaoke's past, present and future, the technology, and a look at China's input into our scene. In this episode, after a brief history of the last 15 years or so, we'll also take a look at the surprising differences between operating, performing and going out in Kowloon and Hong Kong, as well as a look at the SAR's biggest entertainment industry, Cantopop. We'll also introduce you to a small handful of some of Hong Kong's entertainment figures who make up just a small representation of those performers who do it for the fun, for the money, and just for the love of it. Our story of entertainment begins in the early 1980s, when Hong Kong was beginning to enjoy more affluence as a direct result of the hard work of the 1970s, and its masses were warming to the idea of listening and dancing, to the music being played in the clubs, from the stage, and on the radio. Hong Kong was developing a serious taste for nightlife. It offered discos, with DJs, both local and foreign, on contracts with, again, both local and foreign-owned agencies. The music was an eclectic but strangely familiar mix of UK, US and Australian pop. The Mediterranean dance hits of the European high-energy scene. A small selection of cha-cha. And a sprinkling of the new, homegrown Cantonese pop songs, with the working title of Cantopop. Alongside the discos were many much smaller bars and lounges, catering to other forms of entertainment such as live music of all genres. There were hotel outlets offering the same, but mainly performed in by the slick, highly professional Filipino musicians, who've well and truly left their mark in Hong Kong and whose legacies live on in the second and third generations of talented musicians who were born and raised here. We should also not forget, of course, those who've either lived here all their lives, most of their lives, and/or quite a fair amount of their adult lives, and who make a living being musicians, or indeed any kind of professional entertainer. But one thing is for certain, back in the days when CDs were only owned by serious audiophiles, the poor old organist could never have seen karaoke coming. But as progress once again is the inevitable, our entertainment industry is still going through its development and trying desperately hard to find its own niche in Hong Kong's unique scheme of things. In all the years I've been working in entertainment in Hong Kong, I never failed to be in awe of the ever-evolving tastes, trends, varieties and venues that exist and have either fallen or flourished. It's an unbelievably complex and highly intertwined industry that's entertainment, Hong Kong. Although Hong Kong is a very compact place, there is and always has been a big difference between Hong Kong side and Kowloon side.
It's a very small distance between the two, but it seems to be a very large divide.
Kowloon operations will never be able to masquerade as cool Hong Kong operations. They need to recognize their clients and deal with them as best they can.
Kowloon is much more Chinese, local orientated, but it is a very dynamic scene over there.
Well, at the beginning, we were the only bar in the street, right? And there was a noodle shop across the road, and there was the betting shop above us, and that was about Hart Avenue. That was all there was. Now it's just full of restaurants and entertainment venues, pubs, bars, etc.
Tsim Sha Tsui has always been thriving with a mixture of locals and with a mixture of tourists and Westerners, and it's a much more diversified mix with a much wider range of entertainment. If you get areas like Knutsford Terrace, which are starting to build up into a good couple of restaurants and some bars. You've got the area around Pratt Avenue where you're getting a lot of bars. And then you've got things like Hong Kong Puzzle, which is opening in Tsim Sha Tsui East.
I believe that we could do well over there, but I think that when the jump started, it was all about what was going on Hong Kong Island, and that was the reason for putting it here. But as I say, I mean, there's still options for us to go over to Kowloon's side.
Hong Kong, you've got Lan Kwai Fong and Wan Chai, and to a certain extent Causeway Bay, and they have very distinct differences between them.
Hong Kong side, again, has its own set of problems, like it doesn't have as many numbers, necessarily. I mean, you could argue that the quality might be a bit better, but you're dealing with a smaller crowd of people.
Lan Kwai Fong at the moment seems to be busy quite early, and over the last few years they've tried to push it as an upmarket dining area, and then in the last 6 months a lot of the places have started to do clubs late at night, and there may be a club opening up again in Lan Kwai Fong in the next couple of months.
It's not a rowdy bar area anymore, but it's still an entertainment area. You can still come down here and there's still bars. There's Schnurr and there's the Hardy's, Al's Diner. You know, look at that place on a Friday, Saturday night, that's packed. And people are still doing jello shots like they did 10 years ago, you know. But Scotty's is gone, and there are a lot more restaurants.
You can go and have a good night out in Tsim Sha Tsui, which will be very different to one in Wan Chai, which will be very different to one in Lan Kwai Fong.
I don't think it's necessarily competition, it's just a question of recognizing, you know, the realities that there is a lot more than a line in the sand between Hong Kong and Kowloon. It's very, very different, almost species of client and species of club or environment, and definitely mental attitude.
I do believe there's a difference between the two, between Hong Kong and Kowloon now. It's taken me 20 years to really cotton on to it, but I can kind of see it. When I'm in the place, I can see what the differences are. People are having a good time either way.
For many years now, Hong Kong has had its own brand of local pop music, dominated by huge icons that go by the unlikely name of Aaron, Leon, Jackie, Sammy and Andy, selling records or CDs by the bucket load. For the uninitiated, here in Hong Kong, the majority of the population's music of choice is Cantopop.
Cantonese songs start in Chen Boju and Xiu Feng Feng, those stage. And then it changed to like Teddy Robbins and Playboys, also Joe Jr., also Sam. Sam have influenced a lot, you know, in Cantopop.
Sam Hui was the first one that I recognized as, you know, when I look back now, I recognize it as Sam Hui was the one that was putting Cantonese lyrics to original tunes. Makes sense. Why wasn't this happening before? It was, but very quietly. And if people wanted to have their records played around town or perform live, they were singing mostly in English.
Cantopop was still very limited. The music arranged, the music arrangement, and the way how you project yourself is unlike whatever the things that I was trying to do in English.
It was a mixture of these acoustic-y, folky things being played. And there was also this love song thing going on in the international market, you know, post disco. There were love songs were very, very hip, lots of love songs. And everyone in Hong Kong loves a love song. So you had this folky thing going on, you had this international love song thing going on. They merged, and then Cantopop sort of, I don't know, this chemical reaction happened.
Even up to the mid and late 70s, there was room side by side with Cantopop for bands like Ming and the Winners and the New Top Notes who performed in English. And of course, at the same time, I wrote melodies for Cantopop productions.
English is not our mother tongue. Cantonese is our mother tongue. It's easier to communicate with people in a language that you know by heart, that you don't have to translate, you don't have to guess the meaning. It's very direct. So Cantopop is a must.
Hong Kong is a Chinese-speaking community. I mean, it would be very strange. English things or English songs would be something that everyone would like to hear. I guess I knew this was going to happen. It was just a matter of when.
It's going to happen anyway, because the Mandarin standard, you know, before Mandarin singers have been overruled, get all the market. People from Taiwan like Zhang Di, like Yao Suyong, this Ping Guo Hua, a lot of them, you know, they come to Hong Kong, they sing in everywhere. But Mandarin is not Hong Kong people's first language, most of them. It's Cantonese. So when Cantopop, when Cantonese song come out, they understand it more, you know. Well, if you sing my language, then of course I enjoy it more, and that Cantopop anyway eventually have to come up.
During the early 80s, Mandarin songs were not so popular as Cantopop because Cantopop was really, really hot.
It was back in the, I think, early 80s. That was when Cantopop really started to hit. And I will always remember who really kicked off, who really made it very, very big, if my memory proves me right, was Roman. There was one particular song that Roman did. That was, in fact, that was a guideline to many of the singers. Say, wow, if he can make it, all of us, we can. So that particular song proved to be a big hit. And I still remember it was Roman's 小李飛刀. It's a very Chinese song. That was so big. And that was like something that all recording companies thought if that album could sell, then the other singers' album could also sell.
The people that are responsible for really pushing this, of course, are the record companies. And once they have found a formula, it's traditional around the world that they'll stick with that formula for as long as possible because it works.
Everyone says that songwriting is quite a difficult task, but what's the deal with writing a Cantopop tune?
It is actually a challenge to do this because what the industry actually wants a person to do with a song, you think it is physically impossible to do this, you know.
One of the main difficulties is the melodies because of the tones in the Cantonese language. Are really restricted to their melodies, and it's actually, I think, pretty difficult to sing in Cantonese. Even if you're Cantonese, probably.
They would ask me to take a fast disco song and change it to like a slow tempo grooving Simply Red, which is like, or mixing a reggae with classical and country. It's the combinations that they choose is never heard of before. I have always used Western music as reference, you know. I never listen to Chinese music as reference to get a style, but I do listen for Chinese music to hear their vocals, to see how it is sung. Okay, so, you know, if you're writing a melody, and you listen to the melody, you'll sing it, you get a da-da-da-da-da-da-da, okay, then you think, now how would Cantonese fit with that? And then you realize that it's not fitting. But Cantonese, it is actually a method on how the pronunciations is. And I figured that out, and that's why I can keep writing them now.
Writing a Cantonese melody that doesn't have really any Western influence in it, or, you know, you think of something in an English melody or is in your head, and then you just might not be able to sing it in Cantonese at all, because like Randall said, you know, it's melodic, whereas Cantonese is all very broken up. You can't, you know, you can't extend notes and put vibrato on particular words because of the tones.
Cantopop is so big, it appears to have got out of control.
So actually in Hong Kong, we have only a few composers, and there's so many singers want to release albums. So how can you expect in such a small place that, and you expect those composers, few composers, can bring out so many songs in 1 month or in a 6 months time? That is crazy.
By us being foreigners, we can write the music only and the melody of it, and then it has to go to a lyricist, someone to write the lyrics for it. And then you'll come up to times where, okay, the music sounds great, the melody sounds beautiful, but the only kind of lyrics that you can have to fit it doesn't make any sense at all.
We're talking about arts. We are not talking about factory, you know. You don't just produce a song by covering, you know, but just do that. You have to think, you have to imagine. But if you are forced to produce, every day you give me one song, every week you give me one song, it will become like a factory.
Music are not something that you force out. It's coming from the heart. Even for lyricists, it's the same. In Hong Kong, we don't have too many good lyricists. So And we have, in one time, every month they have 10 records that's coming out. So how can you ask them to have perfection?
The best quote in the world, was it Maggie Cheung who said, I don't know if it was Maggie Cheung, she said, singing Cantonese is like singing with a straitjacket on.
With Cantopop and Hong Kong-based Mandopop seemingly reaching its peak, there are still players who want to enter the market.
We have been thinking of going to Cantopop. In fact, we have even sponsored some auditions to see whether we can find an artist that we think will be good to be our pioneer artist in Hong Kong. So far, we have not found anyone yet. And I guess maybe the recession did delay the decision a little bit. But certainly, if we were able to have a good artist, we'd certainly like to do one. And I'm very sure we want to do something very different from what the other companies are doing.
For a few major companies, Cantopop is making really a lot of money. But at the same time, for other companies which have less major Cantopop artists, they still rely on international music.
It certainly has a very big impact. Not because musically it is the best music for the kids here. It's just because the media here, it seems that that is the only thing that they set their priority on.
To a large extent, I'm sorry, but I have to blame the media, because the media does get behind this whole idol syndrome, and that whole four heavenly, princely, whatever pop, whatever it translates into, was invented by the media, and they went along with it.
The media should, especially radios, they should have more music programs. They should introduce to the younger generation, that they should tell them what is music. Music is not only just to listen to your idol singer singing, and without knowing even what sort of song was that, or even without knowing what sort of words they're listening to. They should educate them.
But having hit on an immensely successful and profitable formula for so long must have its drawbacks.
Now Cantopop is going really down the drain, I can tell you. I'm sorry to say so. That's why a lot of Taiwan artists, when they come to Hong Kong, they kill the whole market. They have been killing the whole market because the melody, the meaning of the song, because now Cantopop, it changed. Before, you have to know music, you really have to be a singer, you really have to sing. But now it's more an idol thing. Idol thing doesn't last that long.
Most of them are not selling. There are only a couple, like Jackie Chung, for example, who really can sing, is very talented, and deserves the success he's got. There are others who are either singing models or singing actors and actresses, and you know, their sales are just not reflected anymore. You know, the sales don't reflect their popularity anymore.
I think in Hong Kong, everything is marketing. Regardless of whether you're a good singer or a bad singer, if there is a big recording company who's willing to back you up, no problem.
Companies have lost a lot of money, and just for the sake of face, in some cases, signing an artist away from another company and paying that kind of money, and just without the hope in hell of making it back, just doesn't make financial sense.
There are a few singers, you know, in Hong Kong who really sings very, very well. But unfortunately, those that really sing very, very well, I think they're more mature, older. Now, in these days in Hong Kong, for those people who buy your album, are all these young kids, girls, who prefer to idolize a younger male singer. If you're young, regardless of whether you know how to sing or not, you know how to dress really nice, and you have a big recording company to back you, they'll love you right away. It's just how it is. Unfortunately, that's how it works in Hong Kong.
If the youngsters just listen to the Cantopop, if they don't know there's a music world outside, the knowledge will be getting less and less. All they know is about Leon Lai Meng, all they know is about Andy Lau, Aaron Kwok. They didn't know that there's a world outside. There are so many brilliant musicians, and they couldn't tell what is jazz, what is soul, what is R&B, what is Motown. That is a waste.
It's not a healthy scene when it's there to the exclusion of talented people. And I think, again, with the economic downturn, the kids who buy CDs are being far more selective. They're not going to buy something just because there's a pretty face on the cover.
Cantopop is very influential to the young people here, although I don't think that currently
it's not the best music available in the market. There's a lot of better music in the marketplace, but as I said, if there's no way of exposing them to the young people, they will never know that such a music exists.
If it's crap, and they're just not going to buy it. And it's happening already. There are records I know of where they've invested a few millions in production and promotion. They've sold 700 copies. When that happens, I'm sorry, it's the end of an era, really.
But what does the future hold for the cantopop scene?
I believe in the coming future, Mandarin songs will take a very big part in Hong Kong market.
Do you think they could wipe out cantopop?
No, because the people, the mother tongue is still Cantonese. We still need Cantonese to communicate. I don't think English songs are really picking it up. No, I don't think so.
I wish that the Hong Kong music scene could actually open up a little more, you know, because they say that it is impossible for them to sing Cantonese with a Boyz II Men-like harmony, you know, or an In Vogue harmony, or something like that. But it is actually possible for them to do that as long as everyone remember to stay on their notes. It is possible to do it. But everyone's afraid to try it.
For cantopop, I think the young singers, well, they will take a place, but they will not be as strong as the Four Kings.
I see a movement towards better quality music, slightly less formula-driven music, and also being slightly more adventurous.
But I think the scene is going to be quite boring for some time. But people are looking for things that are with more substantials and with, they are not so crazy like before, just go to any concert. They will pick, because now they really getting tired of the really trash and really money-making thing. People are not stupid.
I think in the next year you will see quite a number of artists losing their record contracts, being dropped, and a better quality artist, the qualifications, if you want to call it that, will have to be higher. Record companies will be far more selective, and they concentrate on a much smaller roster of artists.
Now you know almost everything there is to know about cantopop and the difference between Kowloon side and Hong Kong side. Next week, we're going clubbing. See you then.
What's that?